Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Troy with Cichlid Bros. In today's video we have a ton going on because we are setting up two new setups for some aggressive cichlids. You may have seen my two Cuban cichlids before. They are finally getting a more permanent home. I am also cleaning up my fish room, organizing things. I am setting up two 20-gallon aquariums. We are going to be going over to Quinn's classroom fish room and checking out his tanks and one of his new setups. There is a ton going on. It's a jam-packed video, so let's dive right in. So today we are doing a lot of work in my fish room. So obviously out here are all my display tanks, but if we go in this room here, it is my storage room that has been converted to a work in progress fish room. There are many updates that I had in mind, and now that some of my projects are dwindling down or completed, I can now get to this, which is a huge step down here in my basement. So let's go check out that room. So this is the current state of the fish room, and it is a complete mess. I have a lot of things that I've been just putting right in the middle of the room because I had nowhere else to put them while I was building the big plywood tank. I have this big shelving unit with all these different aquarium equipment items and everything else. Some of it was from the plywood tank, so I'm going to start getting rid of some of this and kind of organizing everything. Right here we have my 40-gallon breeder and a 33-gallon shell dweller tank. And I mentioned in other videos that I've been wanting to shut down this aquarium because it's kind of run its course. I've had it for I think 4 years. I've really enjoyed the shell dwellers, and you can see that they have bred a ton in here. There's probably 10 to 15 adults with another 30 to 35 juveniles and even babies in here. So I am actually going to move some of these guys to the 20-gallon rack. So I'm going to start filling up the 20-gallon tanks for either quarantine or just to hold some of the African shell dwellers until I figure out exactly where I'm going to be putting them. So today we're going to be setting up these quarantine tanks again. And then over here we have my 75-gallon tank, which has the beautiful Cuban cichlids, where I found out recently, or just confirmed recently, that both of them are males. I was hoping I had a breeding pair, but since they've matured, I've seen that they are both males. So the plan is to scoop out one of them and give it to Quinn for his classroom fish room. And once we do that, we can remove the divider and actually scape this. I have some driftwood that's been soaking for probably over a month now, and I have some aqua decor moss that I'm going to glue onto that. And we're also just going to clean up all of this area down here in the fish room and get it looking nice. So let's go. And here's only part one of everything I'm getting rid of. So I'm really clearing out everything, getting nice and organized. It's kind of nice. So just a quick update, we had the bottom 20-gallon set up, just a few shells in there and some sand and a couple of rocks for line of sight breaks, but the shell dwellers will be going in here, and I expect I'll have to pull out the shells themselves to put them in this tank or get all the babies out. So we are going to do the transfer probably tomorrow and add in some used filter media as well to make sure that they are good to go. And then up here we have the other 20-gallon tank now set up, and there's going to be a few changes made to this. There is no heater set up because the plan and what I want to do with this is to raise up the babies from the cold water aquarium. So these Gymnogeophagus terrapurpura are looking beautiful. They're fired up, and I've seen some breeding behavior. They've tried to breed in here before, or been able to scoop out the babies and grow them up. So I'm going to keep an eye out. Next time I see a cloud of fry, I'm going to scoop them up and put them in that tank. And because this is a cold water aquarium, I don't need another heater in that 20-gallon tank we just set up. Such a really nice thing, and I want to get this tank looking nicer too. And I've also cleared out this huge rack of equipment. I am going to start organizing that. I'm actually going to move out the shelving to near the plywood aquarium, and sorry for the lighting in here, it's terrible. I'm going to be fixing that as well. But we are going to now move this over to the plywood tank and kind of cover up that fuse box that we see temporarily until I actually get a display case built, which is going to look really nice in that room and cover up that fuse box, but also give me access to it whenever I need it. So let's go ahead and get this guy out of the room and then show the progress. So next to the plywood tank, we now have the storage rack. I think it looks good temporarily right here. Kind of covers up some of the barren wall, and there's still access not only to the fuse box, but to the tank and all the electronics and equipment. So should be good to go here. Like I said, I am actually in the process of making a really nice display case here, and this will change it again. but for now, I think it looks really good right next to the tank. So before I make the transfer of one of these Cuban cichlids over to Quinn tomorrow, which will all be in this video, I am gonna get started on some of the decor. So you can see a few of the plants I tested in there were just absolutely shredded by these guys. And you can see they would uproot any other plants. So live plants really aren't an option for these guys, but I do want to get a pop of green in here. So I do have this piece of driftwood that was soaking for a while, and I have these different fake moss plants that I got from Aqua Decor, and I'm going to glue these all over the driftwood to provide that pop of green. I might add a few other fake plants as well. We're going to go ahead and get started here. So today is the day I have to scoop out one of the Cuban cichlids to bring over to Quinn's classroom. We are going to give him the one on the right, and this is an absolute beauty. And once this Cuban is transferred over to Quinn's tank, we're going to see his new setup with that Cuban cichlid, but then I'm going to be completely rescaping this tank all in today's video. So hang around to the end so you see this update on the Cuban cichlid from the left. Let's go ahead and get some water out of the tank and scoop out the guy on the right. Okay, so I have the Cuban cichlid in the bucket, in the car. We have about an hour drive to Quinn's school, so hopefully the Cuban does fine in the bucket. They are drama queens and act like the world's ending anytime you move them, but hopefully we get him into Quinn's aquarium safely, and we have a really cool setup in Quinn's fish room with the Cuban cichlid, so let's go. All right, I made it to Quinn's classroom. We're gonna skip right through the new tank. And Quinn, are you ready for your new fish?
More than ready. Hopefully it works out.
All right, let's see if he's doing all right. There he is. I don't know if you can see him. He blends in with the shadow. All right, you ready to get him in the tank?
I am. I gotta go get my net though.
So this is the tank that it's going to be going in. This is a 110-gallon custom aquarium. You've probably seen this in Quinn's classroom before, but it currently has a huge sebrum. This is a mouth brooding sebrum, and then 4 big silver dollars. So the Cuban cichlid is a very aggressive one, but hopefully, because we got some big tank mates here, it can do okay in here. But you know, you gotta keep an eye on that aggression.
He's a big guy. We'll see.
There he is, beautiful. Like, Quinn, you're lucky to get this guy.
Yeah, I've always wanted a Cuban cichlid, but obviously with their aggression levels, I've never been able to make it work, but it has been on my bucket list of cichlids that I want to keep. This tank is definitely big enough for this stocking. It's just this sebrum is so big and so aggressive that the Cuban's gonna have to fight a little bit. There he goes, already kind of checking him out. You got his fins flexed up.
Introducing a single fish at one time is always a risk, but hopefully he'll be okay and hold his own, and the aggression will kind of even out.
I think I'm also going to put some more hiding spots in this tank temporarily, just to kind of give the Cuban more of a chance to get some distance away from the sebrum.
And obviously you can keep an eye on them, and if you can get there in time and intervene, you have tanks like a 55-gallon behind you to separate them. So hopefully.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I would recommend when you're dealing with such aggressive cichlids. For me, they're my favorite types because they're the most beautiful, but obviously you have to deal with the aggression levels. I think having an extra tank or 2 on hand as an emergency that we can just take them out and put them in a quarantine tank, it might be the best way to find the right fit.
All right, Quinn, you want to go down the line, get an update on all your tanks?
I think we should, but are we talking about the new one yet?
Maybe just pass on by it.
All right, here's the brand new aquarium. We're going to talk more about that later.
Looks like it's partially updated or set up, but you got a ways to go.
Waiting for a few more items before I get it officially set up. But here we have the Aqua Decor background 90-gallon aquarium. I think the highlight of this update is the convicts in this aquarium. They are absolutely beautiful and they're growing really fast. I'm actually a little disappointed on how slowly the Jack Dempsey's and Green Terror or Gold Som are growing, but they still look really colored up and beautiful. So hopefully with this tank size and the way I'm feeding them, they will continue to grow a little bit faster. But those convicts, man, they are absolutely stunning. Moving on here, the middle tank, we have the 75-gallon with the Jack Dempsey. This is a Jack Dempsey from the same gene pool as the, rest in peace, our old Jack Dempsey. It's my favorite cichlid. It's just like a beautiful, colorful rainbow of colors on this fish, and he was actually in the 110-gallon with the Severum and the Silver Dollars originally. Unfortunately, I was really trying to look after his health because I did not want the Severum to bully him too bad, so I actually took him out because Jack had passed away and this aquarium was open. So he's in there for right now, just kind of like a retirement tank, but I still get enjoyment of seeing all of his colors every single day, and he's really colored up with that black substrate. So
moving on to the 90-gallon, I see this guy looking at you.
This is my friend, my yellow jacket cichlid that is just ready to be fed at all times. But he is just absolutely stunning, and he actually postures a little bit with the Jack Dempsey through the glass. I can see them kind of swimming up and down, and I'm actually hoping that kind of colors him up even more, because when he's super yellow with the black bars, I mean, there might not be a more beautiful cichlid out there, even though I just said the Jack Dempsey is the most beautiful. But I love this aquarium. I don't really like how he moves some of the substrate onto my driftwood like that, but he does sift through the sand a lot to get any extra pellets that fell down through there.
And then you have a couple tanks on the other side of the room as well, right?
Yeah, so originally I had all my aquariums on these two 12-foot stands, but because I got the brand new aquarium, we had to move a few. And that is my 75-gallon Mbuna tank here, and my 29-gallon community kind of leftover tank. So this Mbuna tank here, these fish are crazy active. You can see they always come to the corner thinking they're going to get fed. I love the activity of the African cichlids in this tank, and it might have got my mind rolling on something that I might be stocking in the new aquarium. Hint, hint. And then last but not least, my 29-gallon here, which is a simple piece of driftwood and some rocks. We have some Harlequin Rasporas, neon tetras, and some Amano shrimp that are keeping that piece of driftwood absolutely perfectly clean. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I neglect this tank a little bit, but it's looking good right now. These fish are kind of just leftovers from some of Troy's tanks or my tanks, and they've been doing very, very well. These fish some of them are over 5 years old. And
then you have an empty 55-gallon over there that I showed earlier, but everything's looking great, Quinn, surprisingly.
Yeah, and I will say they are looking great, and it's during football season where I'm the most busy, so I'm proud that I was able to keep the tanks in great condition. Whenever we moved them, they were not in very good condition, so overall I'm really happy, and I have a regimented routine where I'm going to keep these tanks absolutely perfectly clean and provide awesome content for you guys.
Yeah, it looks like the Severum and Cuban are getting to know each other already. But hopefully they settle down and kind of establish the hierarchy. The Cuban's, I think, big enough and aggressive enough to hold his own. But yeah, that's just one of the many new updates for us. And now that the Cuban cichlid is in his 110, I get to update my 75-gallon at home, and you're going to see that all in today's video.
Yeah, that is a win-win, no doubt. And like Troy said, with the new aquarium that I have partially set up here in a 55-gallon, we're not done setting up in here, and we do have some awesome plans ahead, especially what's going to go in that guy. I'm just waiting for the right fish.
And it's going to be sweet.
Yes.
And we are back here in my fish room, and it is now time to finally set up the 75-gallon tank for this one Cuban, and I cannot wait to escape it. I've been planning this for a long time, and now I can get it done. So let's go. And here's the new and improved fish room. It is much more cleaned up and organized. I'm going to talk through some updates with these two tanks. We're going to get to the 75 last, and then talk about the two 20-gallon tanks. As you can see, it's much more clean and organized, which is pretty awesome. The first update is that the African shell dweller tank will be torn down probably tomorrow, but the 40-gallon breeder, I saw some breeding. So my Gymnogeophagus terrapurpura were fired up the other day. I expected that there was eggs in the tank, or fry even, and I did see some yesterday. So I went ahead and scooped them out and I put them in my new 20-gallon setup. So here are the two 20-gallon tanks that are now set up. This is the top one where I put the Gymnogeophagus fry. So I just put a temporary piece of driftwood and some of the plants from the 75-gallon that weren't doing too great. But I did scoop out some babies. You can see some white sand where I got some sand and rocks in the net as well. But they are so small you probably won't see them. They're back there in the corner mostly, but I'm really excited to grow them up and see the breeding process through. And then down here is the 20-gallon tank, which was set up for the African shell dwellers. So I'll be scooping out some of them. I'll likely give some others to friends or local fish stores, but we have the two 20-gallon tanks now set up. And last but not least, we have the 75-gallon tank finally set up for the Cuban cichlid. You can see him right here enjoying the full space with the 75-gallon tank. He seems super comfortable in here by himself. I put the big piece of driftwood there as kind of a centerpiece with some of the fake moss and a couple fake plants, and I actually did use some of the dragonstone as well just to add to the scape a little bit. But I absolutely love this tank now, with this Cuban cichlid being the focal point. He has plenty of space to grow up. He'll probably double in size, and I cannot wait to see him thriving in this tank. And then the Aqua Illumination Prime 16s I think really add a cool dynamic with that shimmer, and the coloration of this Cuban cichlid with that shimmer is just next level. So I'm very excited to have a more cleaned up and organized fish room. I have the permanent setup for the Cuban cichlid. Quinn also let me know over the last couple days that his Cuban cichlid has settled in really nicely in his 110, and his fish room is really coming together as well. I'm also really excited for the breeding of the Gymnogeophagus and to update the African shell dweller tank with an upgraded tank and some new stockings. So much happening down here in the basement and with Quinn's fish room. And probably the next video will be of Alex's fish room because he got some awesome new fish as well. So a lot is happening. If you have not already, I would recommend subscribing to the channel so you do not miss those updates. Bigger and better things to come for Cichlid Bros, and I cannot wait. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.